pretty simple to see how quickly you're running. So if you schedule this to kick off at 6 p.m. and you get an email notification that your 10 gig backup set finished at 6 a.m., you know that it took you 1.2 hours per gig of data to run a backup. So that's how you can look at that side of things. And you'll just have to see. So you can always estimate and plan around using a 1 megabit per second transfer speed as an hour per gig backup. And also, if you go to our website, let me pull this up again. We go back to our main site, and down here we have why choose SOS, and then it says super fast backup. So super fast backup, we did a direct comparison. We just hired an outside source to do a test for us, and then a 20.2 gigabyte backup set for all 3 services running on the same machine with the same bandwidth. And we really blew them out of the water. So we did it in 23 hours. Mosey did it in 33, and Carbonite did it partially in 56. So that's really a terrific example of what's going on. And really, this only speaks to an environment that only has a 1.5 megabit per second upload, because that's about the cap that you get with Mosey. But let's say that you're running from your home machine, or you have Verizon Fios like I do, and you're getting 15 megabits per second upload. I run backups from my home close to 11 or 12 megabits per second, and you see the speed of the backup is it accelerates over time. So when it sees that there's more data to transfer, it'll take advantage of the bandwidth accordingly. So it won't start off as backing up at that 12 megabits per second right away, but quickly into the backup, it'll see, okay, hey, this is we have 50 gigs of data selected to back up that needs to go. This is the first backup, so over time it'll ramp up its speed. Even here in our office, we have a 100 megabit pipe, which is throttled down to our users to 50 megs, and we'll see backups running around 40 megabits per second. So the only slowdown is really the SSL, and it depends on your ISP. Your ISP may throttle you down if they see that a lot of bandwidth usage. So maybe it's good to contact them as well to see what's going on. I have a question, can we send you our data on a hard drive rather than do the first backup online? Certainly, we do have a service for that, but you could also do it yourself. You don't have to go through us, and it's because of the way the security is for the system, is that we don't physically run into the data center and plug in data or pull out data for that matter. So if you look in our knowledge base for PMU, which is physical media upload, hit this, it'll give you a rundown of what this means. Basically, what it's going to do is we're going to ask you to create an image of the backup set that you'd like to be put off-site. You then send us that image on a drive, we'll mount it, and then we'll just use the backup software with a dedicated machine and a faster pipe to get it off-site for you. We'll then need to send you back the cache and some of the configuration files, and then you'll overwrite those in your local machine, run a backup, and then it'll confirm, and then there you go. But really, there's no need to go through us if you don't want to, especially if you're quite far away. It may be faster just to look to a local hosting provider, a local data center, and see about renting a server for the weekend and doing it yourself. So for those of you who are so inclined and would know how to do something like that, of course, and we have the instructions here. And we actually wouldn't even need to use, you can use VMware Converter as well, but really we just need to get an image, because the system is based off of the machine name, and then that's how we determine file path. So we just recover your machine and run it as if it was the machine. Okay, so we have the file selected to back up online. Then we get our schedule. You can back up at the end of the wizard. You can back up automatically without user intervention, which means on a schedule. So typically we do something like a daily backup. Depends how big your incrementals are. And the backup, even when Windows user is not logged on. So this is for server environments. So you would have to put in your Windows domain login information here. And then that'll run, as a Windows service. Oh. Sorry, I'm going to type out here. Good question. Do you back up open files? Yes. And it's actually our backup is a transactionally consistent backup when you're doing the image, which is very important to understand. Everyone, the transactionally consistent backup, I'll just go through it real quickly. For example, if there's a transactionally consistent backup and a crash consistent backup. Transactionally consistent backup means we're going to negotiate with all the transactions that are going on in the databases that are running, so SQL, Exchange, etc. And we're going to say, hey, calm down, pause yourself once you finish the last transaction and don't start a new one until I can take a snapshot. They'll take a snapshot and then they will continue. And that happens in a matter of, seconds. Crash consistent backup is what you find in like Mozy Pro's service, where they just snapshot right away. They don't negotiate with the databases that are running, and it puts you at risk. For example, let's say Peter is going to buy a MiG fighter jet from Jeff. Okay, so the transaction for Peter to buy the MiG from Jeff is to take $1 million out of Peter's account and put $1 million into Jeff's account. The crash consistent backup could happen right in the middle of that transaction, because there are seconds in between that, milliseconds, and the snapshot takes milliseconds to take. So you can take that snapshot right in the middle of that. So the money's out of Peter's account, but it's not in Jeff's account, and the transactions aren't kept except for in pairs. So it's essentially lost. That's lost information. That's bad for business. So you really want to make sure that if you're running image-based backups, that they are transactionally consistent. That's why manufacturers always say it's recommended to shut down the database and then run a backup, because shutting down the database means if you take a snapshot of it, all the transactions are going to be completed. That's the only true way to truly do that. But a transactionally consistent backup, what it does is it pauses the transactions for a split second so that we can snapshot it and then it can continue. So you don't have to shut down the database anymore. You can just make sure that you have a transactionally consistent backup. Huge, huge point to make. You want to make sure that you are not running crash consistent backup programs while your databases are open, or you'll lose information. So we got this. We're going to do it daily at 3 p.m. We can tell it to send us email reports. Hit finish. And that's it. Now it's scheduled. And you can use, again, same thing, your monitoring reports to show this full backup still failed because the drive is full. You can monitor the scheduled backup with, your company like Spiceworks or anything else like that. That's how it runs. So it's really easy to take a look at. If we go to Online Restore, we can see this calendar view here. So this calendar view will let us go to any bold date, and it'll refresh our backup set to that bold date. Or you could just select the most recent, hit Next, and then it'll show you everything here. And then you can run it this way. So we can come here, we get the F drive, and then we have all these volumes. I actually prefer, when I'm doing a recovery, to open up the classic view because it's bigger and I can expand it and it shows me more information. So I set up the backup jobs through the wizard, but I typically recover through the classic view. That's just my preference. So I have the F drive here. I have all the date modified. It gives me a list of different versions if there were different versions of the incremental, but by definition it's not going to. And then you just select either the entire machine name, the entire drive, or just a specific incremental file or a specific image file that you want to recover. and then you do that. Same if we go to the My Account system. So if we go to our main website, and then go to the web login button here. And if we log in, let's do it with Tech Training. Oops, sorry about that. Sloppy with passwords today. I have a good comment here. Patrick says mobile laptop users will have problems with scheduled backups since their laptops might be off when it's time to run a backup. Is there a solution for that? Sure. Tell it to run every hour. A workstation, like a laptop or a desktop backup schedule and backup job happens so quickly on subsequent backups that you can run it every hour with no effect on the productivity of your customer. What you're doing is you're increasing your restore point objective to within an hour. So it's really quite beneficial to do that. So that was a server environment. That's more control. Well, you can schedule every hour with your laptop users, and it's really quite nice. If the internet connection isn't available, it'll wait till an internet connection is there. If their machine is off, then it'll run when the next scheduled backup is scheduled, which is within the next hour. So it's really quite nice that you could do that. So that's the beauty of our system when it comes to a laptop fleet selection. You know, one of our customers currently, they came on board with us 2 years ago now, and they have over 800 users across the North American continent. This is around 6 different main headquartered buildings, so like New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and Toronto, and they have just as many networks, basically a huge laptop fleet. And after evaluating, 12 different services, they found that ours was the simplest to get installed and working across the board. So here we have the My Account system. The My Account system is good for web-based recovery or sharing of a specific backup file. Now, you wouldn't do this if you had to recover something larger than 500 megabytes. For instance, your images. You have to recover an image through the software client. But this is good for backup history. So if I go to backup history reports here, I can select the date range and say, okay, tell me what my backup history is. When has this thing been run? And it's going to first sort by date, and then it's going to sort by machine name. So Mohammed asks, in the case where it is every hour, it's only an incremental backup, so it doesn't take as long as the initial backup. Is that what you're saying? Yes, but technically what we're doing is much better than an incremental backup. Incremental backup has the assumption that it's a file-level incremental backup, meaning this file has changed, therefore don't back up, or therefore back up this file again. This file has not changed, therefore leave it alone. So yes, that's very quick rather than rebacking up every file no matter what. Rather archaic to do it that way. Our system is much more intelligent where it actually goes into the backup set, or it actually goes into the file and at a block level decides, okay, what about this file has changed? So let's say you're backing up your Outlook PST file. PST files can be a couple gigs in size. That means it can take a couple hours to get that backup done. Systems like Mozy and Carbonite run a file-level incremental backup, and it could take a few hours every time you back up that file. So running a backup set every hour with a PST in your backup set doesn't make any sense. It won't work. With our system, we go into the PST file and we say, okay, at what block level have things changed? Instead of having the backup over a couple of hours, this few gig file, we'll separate it into, We'll separate it into a Delta file wherein we can see just maybe a 20 meg change for the day or 50 meg change for the day. And of course, the more you run the backups, the smaller the delta will be. So the change between PST over an hour is a lot smaller than over 8 hours. So here's a report that you can see in the My Account system. So we see by machine name, the use space per machine name, and then the date of the last backup per machine. So if you have multiple accounts run or multiple backups running with the same account, you can monitor all that. And you see here I have our Mac Mini that we were doing some testing on that backed up some data as well. And then backup history, which is the one I was trying to get earlier. We'll run this again. And every time you run these reports, it's actually retrieving from the live servers. So it could take a few minutes because it's getting the absolute most recent information possible, rather than getting, say, reporting from a system that updates, maybe only weekly or daily. So this system is going and it's recovering that immediately. A big part of our service, as far as people comparing against Mozy and Carbonite and others, one of the biggest changes, or one of the biggest differences with our service versus others, is really our policy on what we're providing to customers and how we price out the service. We don't price based on an assumed or a planned usage of the data. We sell you a plan with the expectation that you'll use it to its full potential, rather than selling you an unlimited plan assuming that you're only going to use 20 gigs, 40 gigs, 50 gigs, and then putting limitations in place that guarantee that that usage is there. So that's what you see a lot of times, is you see like why Carbonite on our speed test on our website, if we go back to that, if we go back to this speed test, see that Carbonite and the details. Carbonite was limited. It seemed to be limited per day of how much data it could back up per day. So that's why it took so long, is because it came to a point where it seemed just to stop backing up periodically, like after a certain point, and then would start up the next day. So that's why the time here was really slow. Also, they throttled bandwidth. It actually didn't even show the transfer rate with Carbonite. With Mozy, it seemed to be capped at 2 megabits per second. So if we had a faster line to test with, we'd probably see SOS even more out in the lead as far as we don't throttle you down. So we don't limit you in where you can back up data. A lot of services limit where you can back up as far as, can you back up an external drive? And they say, no, well, we're licensing this machine to run a backup. We're just creating a backup account for your business to use. And if you need to back up from a machine that you have only used once or use every day, it makes no difference to us. We're providing a service with the expectation that you're going to be able to back up information that's important to you in your business, and be able to recover that information just as easily. So the experience with SOS, we really wanted to give a 360-degree service as far as a 360-degree coverage. What type of exposure to data loss do you have in your business? Do you have a backup strategy for your workstations and desktops? Is it at a file and folder level? Is it online? Is it an image? What do you have for your servers? Is it on-site? Is it off-site? Is it file and folder ready? Do you have Exchange granular recovery available? Can you recover from a full image? Do you have mobile access? What kind of access do you have to recover this information? Sometimes you can save you and your organization time and increase productivity by giving each individual user their own backup account to run. You can run multiple backup accounts in the same machine. For instance, maybe your user's backup account runs every day at 8 a.m. and then your backup runs every night at 8 p.m. Then you can have one account that's backing up information that the company would have complete access to, and then you would have an individual user account where they only have access to their data. So it makes it very nice in that they could have that productive use. There's another question, can I use a machine like a Drogo as the staging machine? Well, really the staging machine we need a machine. The idea is that we're saving system resources by moving to this type of a solution. Let me pull up a different comparison. Yeah, call in our people at 877-896-3611, and they'll answer all your questions, get you set up, and ready to go. So if I go through here, so here's a competitive grid against Carbonite and Mozy. So you see the top part has to do just with the file and folder backup program that we've always competed against, or competed with them against. But with the addition of SOS ServerSave, we're really just not playing in the same ballpark anymore. Mozy has little features in their Pro package, but it simply is not a competitor, which is why we only showed this section today. Because really we're now competing with Zenith, Internus, and i365, and even they don't offer the file and folder cloud system. So if we were to put these companies in this realm, you would see the top half of theirs be rather empty, and the bottom half be where we're competing. And you could still get a cheaper service from us because we don't require that hardware purchase that's very expensive. It's very simple to use and set up, very flexible. We don't have additional modules just to recover the information you backed up, like Exchange Granular Recovery or Exchange Backup and Recovery is usually a separate module altogether. We don't have that. It's just included as part of it. So for those of you interested, again, 877-896-3611, and you can go to our main website, get more information, get set up with an account, a demo. For those of you who are already SOS customers, it's really simple. You just continue running backups as you have been, and then once you get a license for ServerSave, you download ServerSave, you sign in, and then you would install Image Creator and start running ServerSave backups from to your local machines. And use the same backup account to get it off-site. Any questions? Peter asked, will you use Image Creator to build images of whole drives, or can you create an image of files and folders? No, you can. If you just want files and folders, then just select those with ImageStream to go off-site. When you're creating an image with Image Creator, you just select an entire volume at a time. And the number is 877-896-3611. I believe extension 1, I'll type that in the chat. And call in to be able to get you set up. So I believe that pretty much sums it up for us today. So thank you all for your time. For information about pricing and upgrades, call in to our ServerSave specialists, and they'll be able to give you the breakdown of how it's going to affect you, whether you're coming in with a backup account already, or if you need to create a backup account and this is completely new to you. So they'll be able to set you up. And also, for some of you who are IT administrators, you may want to talk to our partner specialists if you have multiple customers that you would be putting this to, as we have great partner programs available as well. So thank you for your time today. Again, my name is Derek Wood. I'm the Partner Product Manager here at SOS, and we look forward to having you on board. Thanks, and have a good one.